You have that. You have those shoots. You have some regrowth. If I had too much regrowth, perhaps I'm gonna put a PGR, perhaps I'm gonna put apogee, or I'm gonna have to prune it again. Okay. And here, give you an idea of how that nursery is gonna look. So we start with a short frame from the nursery, and later, definitely that is gonna get thicker in the orchard as the orchard mature, but it's not gonna get thicker than 12, 14, 15, 16 inches from the trunk. It's gonna be a very narrow fruiting ball. This is one of the first grow through finished nurseries in 2018, where we did very little pruning and we let the shoot to grow too much when they are with a tall tree, because we let it run through. This is a 3-year tree with the traditional budding in the summer. So this is not a bench graft. And we ended up with something like this. There we lost a lot fruitfulness. So we had a lot of shoot. We were not pruning. We were not doing the thing that we are recommending today, but just tell you how nice a tree you can produce under our conditions in New York. Okay, imagine our light conditions, our growing conditions are a lot less vigorous than a nursery that can be produced under Washington condition or New Zealand or Chile. So on top of that, on top of the care of those trees, the manipulation that we are doing, we also had to bring a kind of a mini trellis structure that I'm showing you here, just because we ran through the tree one more year. Okay, so we're doing different things with 1 wire or 2 wires of plastic twine, the bell twine that you can see there, just to keep the trees straight due to the wind, due to the snow that we can get in the winter. We want to keep those trees there. We want to babysit the trees perfectly to be able to keep going and end up with a very narrow tubular tree. These are kind of 2 different mini trellis systems. Just to show you this grower approach, how this grower decided to do it with 2 wires. This is another 4-row bed with a post and 1 wire at the top, 1 wire at the bottom in both sides. So the tree kind of well supported. So here, so I am finishing with the mini trellis. I am finishing with the grow through technology. The grow through technology in the nursery is very applicable to any growing condition in the first or even second year in a traditional orchard. All the pruning cuts you there are very applicable. To the management of a tree in the orchard as well. Whether it's 1 liter, whether it's 2 liter, whether it's 3 liter, it's very similar to the way that how we could be managing those trees in the orchard. So here, I want to bring you back a little earlier. Another key aspect of growing a tree in the nursery is the de-shooting. The de-shooting, sometimes I recall it could be confusing sometimes. I just want to show you the right way perhaps to do it at the height, where we are just removing the shoots and we are leaving the leaves. And we are doing this until a particular height. In the second video, in the lower video, you're gonna that I had that stick just to mark from where we had to de-shoot. That in this case is around 26, 25, 27 inches. because once we have been deshooting the scion wood and we get to the height of that tree in the nursery, there where we decided to interrupt the apical dominance. The interruption of the apical dominant in the nursery was something very critical when we were really looking to produce a well-feathered branch trees, and we really want to have something with long feathers. Okay, today in the nursery today, in reality, we're not really looking for big feathers. I think so we're looking more for feathers, the way how I was there. But I cannot mention this because these are the fundamentals of the tree nursery production and why we do the interaction of the apical dominance. So we do it more or less at around 28, 30 inches, 71, 76 inches, because when we do pinching, manual pinching, or use of some PGR, plant growth regulator, we're gonna get the branching 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 centimeters below the height of the application, the day that we decided to spray in the nursery. Okay, when you try to do this manually just by pinching the tips, a good guy cannot do more than 7,000 to 8,000 trees per day. But when you have a nursery like this one with 800,000, 1 million or 2 million trees, you really need to get uniformity in the way how you are producing your trees. And many times the lack of use of PGRs in the industry, especially in Washington, was producing these long sections where the tree didn't receive any PGR application or pinching just because they couldn't do it. And you ended up with a kind of blind wood just because the shoot grew so much in highly vigorous situation. So to be able to be on top of a PGR program in the nursery, and this is another topic that we could cover perhaps even in another talk, is the use of mechanization for the use of, in this case, max cell. I'm showing you a sprayer where we're just spraying the tips of those three. That is the second or third spray at that moment. But we're trying to mechanize so we can really cover a lot more acreage in the nursery, and at the same time we are cultivating, and at the same time we are spraying in between rows in the nursery. So here's another one when we started the trials of chemical branching in Washington nursery, spraying the tips, no more than 3 or 4 mLs to each tip to be able to get some kind of chemical branching. So those are the first trials that we were doing in 2012. So we were traveling from New York to Washington doing this trial with the big nursery there because we took the initiative and the research and we got the funding to start doing this kind of work with Terence, in addition to all the work that we have in New York. So it was an amazing experience to be able to be part of this effort. This is something in Chile, just to show you a little bit another how you can go with your mechanization and the sprays that you can use with 4 or 8 rows in this case to be able to produce the feathering that you want. And here is one of the many in Italy. In this case is something for 9 rows, something with they are just spraying with an offset boom with nice spray hose, and they are dipping the tips in this case with a plant growth regulator, and just putting a little bit at the tip, and the people are walking at the end of each of those 9 rows. They're walking at the end of, with that hose and spraying each tree. So it's a different way to do it, more labor intense in that way. So to summarize, kind of, the message of this introduction is we're trying to move from this kind of traditional beautiful tree, a neat tree that you have there. Even I'm showing you there the cat of the canip cut in the nursery to be able to produce these beautiful, well-branched trees that are gonna give us these very long, perhaps even over vigorous feathers that are, in some cases are gonna become very problematic in the orchard if you don't prune, if you don't start managing the amount of wood that you have in the orchard to something that is more narrow like this. So we're moving from the feather manipulation, from managing all the feathers to something more simple that is gonna allow us to have in a second leaf, or in a third leaf, canopy, still not completely full in this case, but we are really being able to go very narrow. Okay, you can see there a huge amount of leaves, just the leaves at the bottom. If you are asking, hey, why you have that, it's just because we do a lot of leaf pruning before harvest in this cultivar where we remove leaves. So we are doing it with air machines or with clippers just to remove that. So that's the reason why I had those leaves. But in this case, something fully organized. These are orchards from New York, so we can really do it in New York under our light condition that I showed you. Both videos are different days, and I had the same level of cloudiness next to Lake Ontario. That is a big ocean. So we really lack good kind of 100% radiation, and we had to make the most of the light that we have. That's why we really need this very narrow canopy, especially us in New York.
Mario, can you please tell the distance? What's the distance between the rows and between the trees in the last orchard?
Everything in this orchard, most of these orchards are 11 feet. So 11 feet, since we are 3.3 meters. And the spacing that we are using more or less go from 2.5 to 3 feet. So we are using from, I imagine, 70 to 90 centimeters, but we're moving away from a 90 centimeter, from a 3 feet in row spacing. We're really going to perhaps 60 to 75 feet in row spacing. Okay, so be able to get this kind of tree, a different structure, a different texture. That is something that I'm gonna be talking about. Texture is what we're looking for. So let me move to the use of simple rules for modern high density planting. And here I'm gonna start bringing more horticulture, more than a concept that was the introduction. And I just wanna make you be aware of visiting speakers or consultants or guys like me. There is only one way to train trees. Okay, so I am the first guy that is against that kind of concept. I know that kind of guy who's gonna tell you you had to do it this way. Okay, the only way that I can really help you is to understand your own condition. You are the guy who knows the most, or you can help me to find the best training system that is gonna work for you. Because you have to understand how, and especially why you are imposing each step as you start planting higher and higher planting density. Whatever is the system, you are the person, or you are the person with somebody else who can understand different light environment, different soil fertility regime to be able to see what is the best for each particular region. That's why I cannot grow a spindle, bring a spindle idea from South Tyrol and think that I can grow a Linda McIntosh or a McIntosh the same way, because they never had the same challenge in South Tyrol like us here, growing McIntosh or Linda Mac or any of the very highly vigorous cultivars that we have in that line of all cultivars in New York. So we learned the hard way by imposing an idea or a system that sometimes is not the best system and needs some kind of modification. Okay, you need to find that thing. So we had to avoid unnecessary mistakes, and with higher and higher density planting, the impact of a mistake on your part of the doing the important thing is higher than with lower density planting. So here I'm gonna go very quick for the decision and methods. The decision and methods that we're gonna use perhaps this year or the coming year for establishing that orchard. So one is going to be the advanced planning, okay, at least 2 or 3 years in advance. For us, it's the deer fence. Perhaps for you guys know it's irrigation, it's drainage for us here in New York, good nutrition, good soil management, the use of nursery tree of good quality, whether they are bought or produced on the farm. So that is the old kind of approach of the tree that we were talking about in the past. Today it's a different tree, it's a more tubular tree, what I showed you before. Early spring or fall planting. So we want to plant as early as we can to be able for those roots to establish and start pushing the tree. We had to install very quickly the trellis and the irrigation soon after planting. In our case, a good grower can get it done, the irrigation 3 or 4 weeks after planting the trees. So you start planting the tree, you put the pot, you put the water, you put the irrigation. In Washington today, if you plant a tree, especially a Geneva tree with all the care that they are doing, they put the water average in that tree 6 to 20 minutes after that tree was planted. Just because wind, desiccation, very high soil temperature conditions, the care and the precision that they have imposed and developed with the Geneva technology, just because they are bringing Geneva technology to their orchards, is unbelievable. So for us, we're okay. We can do 3 or even 4 weeks after planting for the first grower, because for the best grower, because we have soil moisture coming from the snow or from precipitation or from the winter conditions. Optimal leader growth, since it's obvious, manipulation, we have to remove shoots to favor shoot growth, elongation, manipulation, use of PGR, something that we're gonna be talking about pruning. I'm gonna talk about the production system for efficiency. Here is something that is basic, but sometimes you have to wonder about that. The more complicated you make the tree in terms of making decisions, the harder the system becomes for you and your worker. Okay, so that's why I really have been hammering the industry about simple rules for everything in the orchard. Simple, simple, simple. With a very simple training system, workers had to make few decisions. A very simple training system also made the fruitlets, the branches, and the fruit very accessible to workers for hand thinning, for pruning, and for harvest. They are very happy. So use simple rules. How simple rules make it easier to work and be more efficient. So always I put this example with pruning. Complex, very complex tree architecture are going to create many possible course of action for pruning. And in many cases, especially for the less experienced workers, they're gonna get confound workers. They're gonna be, okay, what do I need to do? When workers are faced with a superabundance of pruning cut alternative, workers are afraid, especially the workers that they have less experience. Workers are afraid of making the wrong choice. As a result, workers delay the pruning cut decision when they're not sure, default to the safest obvious cut, or avoid choosing altogether. So your pruning crew ended up being less efficient. They work harder, not smarter. You ended up growing wood and no fruit. So that is the case that in many cases, when you don't prune in Italy just because in the first year, by the end of the 4th year, the 5th year, you are full of wood that you had to start pruning, and you should have started in some cases a lot earlier. So the good, the bad, and the new and the ugly things about the tall spindle training system. The good thing is that it's easy to teach, it's easy to grow, it's fun to grow, simple, natural, helicoidal, it's three-dimensional. Some 3D spindle orchards are transitioning to 2D kind of via mechanical pruning. That is another topic. I also prepare a little bit of that for you guys. If we had the time, we had the narrow canopy, more suitable for orchard mechanization, and it's very productive. But the bad things, and I already mentioned something, is that the minimal pruning concept, especially early in the life of the orchard for year 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, can be easily misunderstood. Okay, so if you delay the renewal, pruning can create dense canopies, especially for high vigor trees on high soil fertility situation. And if you delay that early pruning in kind of very vigorous climate, you're going to end up with a lot of wood, perhaps by the end of the 3rd or 4th or 5th year. So the lack of systematic pruning for a mature top can create excessive shading. And you can end up with a top with a lot of wood. So the growth habit of the cultivar can challenge the management of a 3D spindle tree also. So a tip-bearing cultivar, a tree like Fuji or anything that wanna grow and wanna bend and wanna chain, doesn't wanna behave like a nice spindle, it's gonna be a challenge. Tall trees are not easy to reach without the use of ladders or platforms. And in many cases, limb bending is required for vigorous cultivar, but not many growers really want to do limb bending. Okay, at least that is our situation. Okay, not many people want to do limb bending. You can see limb bending perhaps in Europe when you have a half hectare or a half acre or 2 acres or 20 acres. But for our condition, when we have growers with bigger acreage, it's very difficult to kind of accept that limb bending should be the way to manage a bigger cultivar when we're planting a traditional single spindle at 3x12. That's been a challenge. Simple rule, graft union should be 6 inches above the ground level when the soil has settled. You should always leave at least 3 or 4 inches of rootstock exposed for a weak tree. You never had to kind of completely bury the rootstock phase because you're gonna have root primordia that are gonna start taking more nutrients and you're gonna lose the dwarfing effect of the rootstock. So if you start planting, whether it's a big feathered tree or no, is some corrective pruning after planting that is important. Very important in some cases. You have to prune feathers that are too long or too narrow or too thick. I know you bought a tree from the nursery and you should be planting everything what you got. But in this particular picture, is one single shoot there that should be pruned. And in many cases, it's not that you had to prune all the trees. You had to be able to identify what are those shoots of feathers, especially in the case of trees that were grown with long feathers that should be removed because they're gonna suck a lot of energy, they're gonna become dominant, and they're gonna make to be the spindle tree a different tree if you don't have that corrective pruning after planting or at least for the first 1 or 2 years. Corrective pruning after planting. So in some cases, you have to remove all the fur below 24 inches, below 70 centimeters or 80 centimeters. You don't have to hit the leader when planning to cut all spindle tree. You have to remove any feather larger than 2/3 of the diameter of the leader with a bevel cut. You have to leave at least 2 inches of stuff. And if there are less than 3 feathers, you have to remove them with a bevel cut and trim the tree with as a whip. And use Maxell at the tip 15 to 20 days after bud break to promote branching. And since I mentioned, I say tip, you had to spray the entire week with Maxell in the orchard. I was thinking about the nursery. In the case of when you really want to get some kind of branching in the first year, you have to spray to the tree in the section where you want that kind of feather production. Branch management. So I'm gonna mention something, even though I told you it's difficult to do it, to convince grow, invest the necessary time. All feather and vigorous culture should be tied. Time is best done within 1 month after planting, but can also be done in June and July, and even until August. I have seen great results with better bloom density the following year due to feather manipulation, even done very late in the summer. You can get a response, but you have to be willing to invest $300 or $400 per acre because it's very time consuming. So branch management, this is the branch management that I was developing 8, 7, 10 years ago. I was very unsuccessful. I had to tell you, I couldn't change the industry in this regard, to be honest with you. The same perhaps in Michigan, it's difficult. Our growers are not willing to do this kind of work. Whether it's with a black strip there, like ABC strap, something like that, that we also use to manage the feather of a vigorous cultivar, tying the bait, opening the thing, moving the feathers down and tying down, or using rubber bands, like in this case, and really putting those feathers below the horizon. It's a very ugly positioning of the feather, but it's the only way that you can really slow down, especially a highly vigorous cultivar in a highly vigorous climate, or really produce, change the crouch angle and get a completely different hormonal mix component cocktail to be able to get the flowering induction that you want. So different picture just to show you a little bit the way how I was doing this kind of thing, manipulation with the feathers. And this is just an effect when and without, with and without feather manipulation. And I do the count in the winter. I put a tennis ball just to tell the growers, hey, here I have more buds. I'm gonna have more spurs for the following year. In the case of Fuji, when we didn't know how to do Fuji under New York conditions, just to tell them, hey, look, I have more bud, I'm gonna have more fruit just because I bend the highly vigorous cultivars. You don't have to start pruning so early because they become so big, so vigorous. Leader support. With a weak cultivar, you have to babysit. Always say you have to babysit. At night, in Italy, when I got in New York, growers were using 1 horizontal wire or 2 horizontal wire, and now we're using 6, 7, 8, 10, 11 wire, because really I emphasize how critical it is to babysit that leader support. For us to get more than 18 to 20 to 24 inches of growth, vertical growth, it's very difficult. It was the norm for the best growers. So we had to really intensify the leader support of those trees by pushing the trees as hard as we can the first 2 or 3 years. So support the tree to grow quickly and vertically to the top trellis wire. In this case, it's 3 wires. If there is a vertical supporting element, such as a conduct pipe, a bamboo, a wire stabilizer, you should have 4 or 5 wire as a minimum. If no vertical supporting element is used by a support element, I'm talking about a conduct pipe, a bamboo piece, or anything, or a plastic twine that have become very, very popular. Many growers, and I think so you're gonna go to see pictures with plastic twine in a vertical position just to support the tree, the leader, the shoot. The leader should be attached to the trellis with a rubber band or a wire. So we have 4 wires, we have 5 wires, we have 1 wire with conduct stake, we have 3 wires plus a stabilizer, a vertical stabilizer, like a piece of bamboo there between the wires. And we young weak trees that have crops then supported terminal portion of the leader above the last wire. As you grow, the tree should be defruited. Every time that tip past each successive wire should be defruited for maximum shoot grow and good lignification during year 2, 3, and 4 until you get to the top. If you you don't the fruit and you let those apples to stay there, the tree is gonna bend. In the case of tip-bearing cultivars, anything that the tree is getting to the top, sometimes you're gonna break the trees and it's gonna be a mess. You're gonna have to start all over again, or you're gonna try to finish that tree in some way later. So why no more wires? What about 6 or 7 or more wires? At least for us, I don't know there in Israel, at least for us here, 1 more wire is very cheap compared with all the costs that we have in an orchard per acre. So we have been able to include and really be very successful with the trellis with more than 3 or 4 or 5 wires at this moment. This is vertical support growers who decide to bring a fiberglass, the green one that you have there from China with pallets, big containers to be able to support these trees with that fiberglass being installed at the end with that platform that is coming at the end of the 2 rows. So here I'm gonna switch again. I'm gonna move to another presentation. All the practical pruning suggestions that I have here, the pruning in the nursery, whether it's a dormant, a summer finger cut with growth through technology, whether it's a corrective pruning after planting, whether it's a use of the 3T pruning concept, pruning that is too long or too thick or too narrow. Pruning to grow the tree with the right open texture in years 1 and 2, and limb renewal pruning, short versus long stuff for more mature tree situation is what I decided to cover in another presentation. We can also have columnarization, stabbing back pruning, spur pruning, count flower bud to determine ratio, but it's something that could be done in a different way, could be done in a more practical way. I suggest to do it perhaps more closer to the winter, something where we can change the tree, where we can have some exercises to be able to use math behind to bring more science to the pruning, if that is the case. So I want to cover practical pruning suggestions. I'm going to change my I'm gonna reduce this. I'm gonna leave it open. And I have this one that is a visual. It's just a lot thing to show you in this kind of format. There is a practical visual pruning guide for young high density apple plantings that I developed. So as you grow the tree, as you plant closer and closer in the in-row spacing, you have always to leave or favor horizontal planters, 1 year old lateral of medium length and width. And flower bud. So you have to prune anything that is too vertical, vigorous, and too long. So I don't know how many cuts are there per tree. I don't really care about how many cuts per tree. Okay, it's not a rule. It's not a rule. It's just to take it out. It's just to take it out. It's just to clean the tree to be able to finish with this kind of texture. Okay, you have to be able to see the same texture, planar, semi-long fruiting units along the entire canopy. When you finish the pruning, anything that is too long, when you look behind as you start pruning and pruning, anything that is too long, too thick, too narrow have to go out. You have to be able to see even something like this that is there. I don't know if you can see in the 1, 2, 3. In the 4 tree, something that doesn't make sense, doesn't have the same texture, that guy had to go out. I don't know if you can see in the picture something that I left behind when we were pruning this row of red delicious.
Mario.
Yeah?
When you're saying getting out, you mean cutting the whole branch, leaving the 3 fingers, or just make it shorter to the...
So, okay, so in that case, for red delicious, doesn't matter. For red delicious, we can leave 1 or 2 fingers. You're gonna see a lot close up of all the pruning cut that I had there, okay? But it's taken out, and you're gonna see whatever position, it's a dirty cut. It's a dirty cut. It's not the traditional bevel cut that in the past for more than 20 years, 10 years, we have been kind of trying to introduce in the industry. It's just a cut. It's a very quick cut with electrical pruning cut or anything where you go and you cut and you do it very fast. So let me show you, you're gonna see the pictures, detailed pruning for Gila, you go in any direction. In this case, this is a tree that was left behind and I just wanna push. Okay, if I leave anything too vigorous at the top of that small tree, those 2 guys are gonna suck all the energy. I am trying to grow that tree and I'm trying to make this tree as vigorous or as beautiful than the tree that I have in the other side. I don't know, you can see the 1, the 2, the 3 pruning cut that I did there just in the vertical position, just because I want the tree open. I want all those 1 year shoot to be open, the most open that I can get. So that is a detail. I don't know, that is 1 or 2 finger cuts. Someone go up, someone go with an angle down. I don't care. I just need the speed. I don't want to spend more than $80, $100. I can't spend more than $200 per acre in pruning. So we do it very, very quick. It's an ugly cut. It's not the perfect cut. It's just cut the wood out. I made of cut. That cut is bevel, that cut is in that dimension, but we are always opening the tree. Okay, especially below the ring, anything that is become, if I leave something like that, in this case, if I leave that one to the left to become too dominant, I'm not gonna get, can you see the ring above the new growth? That is the 1 year growth from last year. That is the shoot, that I need to produce those short darts that I have in the second tree behind. If I leave something too dominant below the ring, below that 1 year shoot that I have there, that is gonna suck the energy of any growth around that sucker and above the ring during the growing season, where I wanna get the texture and those shoots that you can see there along those trunks. So you had to anticipate, okay? You had to accelerate in a good way the renewal pruning. You don't let everything to come to you and everything is welcome. No, you manage what you really want in that tree. So as a result of that intensive management, intensive horticulture, when those trees get mature, everything what is there, I call it is filet mignon. Okay, it's not the other way around. If you let everything to develop, that tree is gonna interact with a lot thick wood. By the end of the 4th year or by the end of the 5th year, that canopy is gonna be a mess. And by that moment, you're gonna say, oh, I have to start pruning. Okay, what I am telling you now is that as you grow the tree, you are so smart and you are so ahead that you remove with very smart pruning, light pruning concept that I call, you remove what you don't want when the tree is gonna become more mature. So you start taking out anything that is gonna become too dominant, because that is gonna shock the tree, called the shock. 2 branches, there we remove 2 branches that were too close together and were shocking the upper part of the tree. No, I don't wanna shock the tree. I don't wanna suck it up, the energy. What I want is to give the tree the energy to produce all those 1 year shoots, small shoots, little things that I'm gonna see what I'm gonna do with them in the next dormant season. Some of them are gonna become too dominant, perhaps I'm gonna take. I'm gonna prune anything, any vigorous branch on the middle part of the tree to further development. So there is one sucker. There's one sucker. You cannot let it go, that guy, to the, you are still growing the tree. You are still growing the tree. You are looking for all these shoots that are gonna become. Same here. You're looking for anything dominant because you want to develop mini shoots. Here you start seeing the texture. 1 is 2 is 3 is cut. Okay, I took the picture, I was done. I saw that perhaps I should have removed that one also. Okay, that one stayed. Perhaps behind is another one that we should have removed. But then we did 1 or 2 or 3 cut and we ran away from the tree. We don't stay too long in the tree. You don't have to. You have to go fast. And all the pruning cut, all the trees should end up with 3 or 4. Look like that day, the way how we were pruning, we were doing at least 3 or 4 smart cuts right away per tree, just to let the tree breathe the following season or this season, this spring. So there we're cleaning, we're pruning, we're selecting, we're leaving more horizontal fruiting unit. Always telling the people, open the tree. Open the tree. Look, try to open the tree. Try to make the tree more open, more fruitful, because that's the only way the tree is gonna settle with flower buds and with fruit in the future. Okay, so when the trees start getting a little more mature and you have so many feathers and so many branches, because for whatever reason, perhaps you have been delaying any pruning or any renewal pruning, you're gonna wonder, my goodness, I have so many branches. How can I do this? And in many cases, also you have so many good branches that everything is beautiful, everything is gonna become filet mignon, but some of them should be removed. So what I am telling you there, that if you use the 4 fingers separation rule along the trunk, and you just envision that at maturity, that tree should only need 15 to 20 semi-long fruiting units per tree. If you are planting a 3x12, the traditional planting, what I'm trying to tell you is that you should try to use your hands any single time that you prune, whether it's 1 single stem, 1 leader or 2 leader or 3 leader, but especially in a spindle tree, because it's difficult to envision how the tree is gonna develop. But every time that you touch an area that is too crowded, that you have too many things, and if you go with your hand, with your gloves, and you go and you touch it like that with 4 fingers and you close, anything that is inside that's too thick, you should take it out. And the spacing between those feathers in a helicoidal spindle way should be more or less every 4 fingers. That is more or less 3 inches in my case. But the hand, the use of the hand is so important along the trunk, because as you prune in year 1, in year 2, in year 3, and year 4, you can really estimate, you can really envision what you can leave along that trunk as you grow the tree. So that is the 4 finger pruning rule along the trunk that you can use. That is also more or less the fingers that you can use to prune, to stop in a different way. You just go, you measure 1 or 2 fingers or 3 fingers, depending, and you make your pruning cut, your dormant cut, your summer cut in the nursery, in the leaders, in anything. In this case, what I'm showing you, you have to use the 4 fingers along the trunk to be able to make the separation with the feathers as you grow the tree to interact with light penetration. You cannot have everything too crowded. Even though you have beautiful growing conditions, okay, you have to have light penetration, especially if the canopy is gonna be too thick. You need to have light penetration, and you can lose a lot of money with a low pack out, especially with the fruit that is inside that is not getting the right amount of light, especially in 3-dimensional system. I have things to show you about that. So there are trees, all the genetic coming from Gala, all the Gala genetics that have been used in some cases, the tops, as you grow the tree and below the rim, tend to produce too many shoots, especially the Gala is the best example. As you grow the tree, the top of the Gala and below the ring has so many shoots. It's a characteristic of almost all the strains. So what you do If you prune below the ring, you single the leader, you prune 2 or 3 shoots below the ring, and always leave a stop to be able to continue growing that tree, in this case, when you are just growing in year 1, in year 2, in year 3. So there, I'm just doing that detail of pruning, before pruning and after pruning, just being very precise. We just already passed with the crew in the bottom. You can see all the pruning cut that we did in those trees. Those trees are beautiful. It's what we really want. We could prune a little more, but now we are putting a clip at the top. We are on top of that, we are pruning, and we just want the very narrow top. We don't want anything that is gonna interact too crowded, too bushy at the top, and we are really cleaning the top before and after pruning. I don't know, it's a very detailed pruning below the ring to be able to let that shoot, that 1 year shoot that is there, just to pop out those little shoots, those little darts that we wanna have in that tree. Okay, it's a very narrow tree. So it's a technique that we're gonna have to use, or we bring to higher planting density when we are planting the tree closer and closer in doing row spacing. So we were not doing this perhaps when we were at 3 or 4 feet in row spacing, but as you start getting closer, you start at 18, 20, 24 inches, the tops had to be pristine, had to be clean, had to be soft, had to be beautiful, had to be done very well with a lot of detail, with a very intensive horticulture. So those are the tops, beautiful trees after pruning. They handle a very narrow gale at top after pruning. I know you don't have honeycrisp, but if you have any situation where you have a cultivar that is not growing at the speed that you would like to grow, you can accelerate the growth of that cultivar through renewal pruning. Okay, and I have already covering the concept with what we have been talking, but always we are removing the largest bottom branch from this slow growing tree will divert energy to the growing terminal. So we're always looking for an accelerated renewal just to be able to re-energize the plant to continue growing. We have had many issues with honeycrisp, especially in the past when we didn't know about rootstocks or about how to treat the plant, or how to prune the plant. We go ahead, we go before. We don't let anything to get too thick. We take out things that are in a bad position, in a bad angle, that are not fully open, to be able to allow the tree to continue growing. Like you can see there, it's just very smart, light pruning to continue growing those tops very, very fine. Pruning detail. So we're doing everything with honeycrisp. All these are honeycrisp pictures. That way we are supporting the shoot. That way we brought a green fabric plastic from China, which I don't recommend to do. I just recommend you to do it with plastic twine. We spend a ton of money, a ton of energy to supporting those shoots, because that shoot, even though we have the wire more than 30 inches apart, can you see that that shoot wasn't able to get to the middle of that spacing if we don't have a vertical element? So if you don't have a vertical element, you are asking that shoot too much to grow in one growing season. You have to put the wire closer if you don't have the beautiful vertical growth that perhaps you can have there. Okay, perhaps you don't need the vertical element so much like we need in our growing condition. But regardless of the growing condition, I really believe that to put in that wire closer between those two wires every 20, 25 inches is gonna give you a better, more vertical tree. Okay, so we really babysit with the fiberglass, with a wire there, plastic clip that we had there in the wire. We had the rubber band along, we had 1 or 2. We had spent a ton of money in that tree to be able to have that honeycrisp at that moment with that height. So more detail here of pruning of honeycrisp. And for Fuji, I'm gonna show you the ugly part of pruning with Fuji or with any highly vigorous cultivar when you delay renewal pruning. So, but in any highly vigorous cultivar, with any situation with high soil fertility situation, high vigor, you're gonna have this situation. If you don't prune, you're gonna end up having something like this. If you don't prune, it's gonna become sucker, it's gonna be a mess. If you don't do anything with limb bending, it's gonna be a mess. And that is what I'm showing you there. It's just a very late pruning approach that we began to implement in Fuji when we were start learning to grow a Fuji spindle under our conditions, because we were very, very afraid of making these early cuts to be able to interact with the filet mignon that you can interact when the tree become mature. And when these trees become mature, we ended up with this big amount of wood just because we were not pruning early on. So what we are doing today in the case of Fuji, we are looking for those. We cannot take out everything in Fuji, at least in our condition, but because we're getting big shoot growth, you know, it's a highly vigorous cultivar. You cannot take everything out. You cannot take more than 30 to 35% of the total buds down through pruning. You cannot do that with the tree. No, you're gonna start losing the balance between vegetative and reproductive structures. So the tree is gonna go in vegetative growth more than flowers. I need the flowers. I need the fruit. The fruit is the best thing that is gonna allow us to really settle these trees. But we need to get the right texture. Okay, I could remove 2 more branches at least. In that first tree, I removed 1, 2, 3, 4. I made 4 cuts. I could have done at least 2 more cuts easily in this year of pruning. Okay, but I had to leave something. I cannot be so aggressive with the pruning, but I had to be on top. I had to be on top every year, because if I don't do that, I'm gonna end up with this kind of situation when the tree gets too mature. I cannot let that big wood to become too dominant. And in top of that, see above those big branches, you don't get anything. Once you start growing, keeping 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 big branches at the bottom, you don't get anything above, just because those ones are sucking the energy. It's a lot better to remove those ones early on and develop the fruiting unit that I need, in this case in Fuji. So these are welcome, especially in the second tree. You can see that they're coming open. They're gonna behave, they're gonna bloom, we're gonna have fruit, and the fruit is gonna make the magic there. Okay, so those ones are gonna help us to do the right canopy structure that we want in Fuji. But even something like this, that is becoming too dominant, is gonna go out. Just ahead, we're moving ahead. We're not waiting to remove the wood. So the same thing with Fuji. In that case, that is 1 single cut in that particular tree. Since I have this close up for that tree, a big cut there, and I could have removed perhaps 1 or 2 more, but I am letting those buds to stay there. I'm gonna rest 1 more season. I'm gonna see what happened. I'm gonna pick those apples, and after that, I'm gonna take out that sucker, because I'm gonna start producing the fruit where I want from other fruiting units. But we have to be patient. We cannot be so aggressive. That's why I call it's a light, smart pruning the first year, but it's not a delayed pruning. It's not pruning at the beginning until the tree gets mature. Because you wait, again, I'm gonna say it again, if you wait for too long, you're gonna have too much wood, and you're gonna have to start pruning to be able to get to the tree that you want if you start early on in the life cycle of the orchard. So 2 big ones right away out. A Fuji situation, a more vigorous situation there. You can see that branch there, huge branch that should have been pruned. The pruning cut out. Perhaps that one, another one should go out and out. And opening, but everything that is open, everything that is coming with flowers is gonna be welcome. Even these big ones, like too much perhaps, but we are just cleaning the tree. This is another situation. So we had different stages or ages, and we start doing Fuji pruning for a spindle for our condition. And in some ones, we were very bad. In another one, we let it go so much. And in the other one, like started from the beginning, different tree ages, we were really doing it a lot earlier. So that's why we have been learning through the years. So more pruning cuts there. That is a beautiful canopy in Fuji. For something like that, we feel a lot more proud. We don't have so many Fuji canopies in those years to really show you how we got there, but that is something that we really were able to accomplish through more systematic pruning early on in the life of the orchard. And once you are there, and once is everything is, budded with a good texture, it's just going there in every single place of the tree, top, bottom, middle. I don't really care. You just take out the big wood, the big wood, the big wood, and the big wood every single year. And you keep that beautiful texture there producing apple. So it's a red delicious. Since I show you this picture, I think so it's just to reemphasize that with 1 or 2 or 3 cuts, but you take out the big wood as you go with the tree. You clean the bottom, especially the bottoms. You don't let that one to become too dominant. You take out everything below 24 or 20 inches and you flush it. You don't have to have kind of fruit there hanging. You're gonna have herbicide drift or mechanical damage or anything. That's why just let the tree to grow fruit from 24, 17, 70 centimeter, 80 centimeter, if that, if nobody's coming from the nursery. Those are beautiful, beautiful, well-textured, red, delicious trees. Okay, those are gonna be beautiful canopy, kind of difficult to make money for us today with something like this, but we can do it with high density still if we really are very systematic through pruning. So this is just to emphasize again something where you have flower bud. It's a 2-3 year old wood. You leave it there. If you have something that is going to allow you to make it more flat, more open. And this is the flashing. I'm just trying to emphasize how important it is to flash anything early on in the life of the tree, so we don't have fruit in the lower part. Ginger gold for us is very easy. Developing fine fruiting unit through pruning is the perfect tree. It's an easy tree for us to do a spindle. And just pruning, very systematic. We're not spending a lot of money. We're using platforms at the top during the winter months, and we finish those trees at the bottom by walking very fast. Just walking very fast. So we do all the pruning at the tops with platform for these trees. It's the only way to make it very uniform. You can see right ways. You don't make your orchard with platform for pruning. You can see right away which orchards are being pruned with platform, which tops are being pruned with ladders. The uniformity is improved them tremendously. And again, everything is open. Once you have the right crouch angle and the lignification process occur, that's gonna stay there, and you're gonna have the right mix of cocktail of hormones and flowers to have the fruit that you need there for 2, 3, or 4 years. And once that fruiting unit becomes 3, 4, 5 years old, it's taken out, you let more light penetrate there, and you're gonna let that one. I don't know if you can see that shoot. Once I prune this one in the first tree, I don't know if you can see that big branches there in the first tree. I'm gonna prune that one, but I'm gonna let that renewal that is coming from that shoot to become the fruiting unit that is gonna work out in that area. I don't know if I can use the laser here, the laser point. So what I'm trying to say, I'm gonna prune this, I didn't prune it. I'm gonna prune it next year because next year, this is gonna be thick enough to justify this one that is there coming from the renewal, okay? Can you see that? Many times when you're pruning and pruning very, very far, you have to be able to see the sequence, but that is with practice, okay? But without being afraid to go with that angle or with that angle or with that length, it's as a minimum length to secure the renewal of that shoot. And if that shoot is not gonna behave, you cut it again sometime until you find the right angle for that area, or you got it from another piece of the trunk in that case.
Mario, in these renewal shoots, you don't tie them again, right? Or you don't tie it?
Yeah, in our conditions, even though that one is coming from above, this is gonna settle. It's already coming settle. I really believe in this shoe that it's gonna be soft in the long term. We don't need, no, we're not doing any time, even in Fuji, even in highly vigorous cultivars, okay? We just do it through pruning, but through systematic pruning, like I have been telling you. We don't let any vigorous cultivar to become too dominant and wait for too long to start pruning. You can early on identify which one of those shoots are too dominant, which one of those ones are the doggies. I call them the doggies. I ask the guys, if we have a pruning section or something, I'm gonna teach you how to look for those doggies without mercy, without any hesitation, to any person from any place in the world with or without experience. Okay, it's a psychological approach to the pruning of high density and high speed with assisted mechanization. You have to be able to see, once you get to this point, anything is, you go in any direction. Perhaps I can even prune something like that, okay? But in that tree, we made 1 or 2 or 3 cuts. These trees at this age, at this pruning that was done, these trees were 2 or 3 cuts right away. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and I had to cut that. There's one cut there, these trees in total, because I cannot see the top, had to be at least 3 to 4 cuts in a more dormant approach. So we have 1, 2, we had to have 2 or 3 cuts here, 2 or 3 cuts here, especially there, in that section, but without bending. Okay, so that's the end of that presentation. Can I take a 1 minute break?
Yeah, sure. We can all take, let's say 2 minutes. We'll join again.
Because I want to really cover, it's 8:23. I want to cover more material with you guys. And give me 1 minute to go to the restroom and I come back right away.
Okay, great, thanks. 1 minute. דקה לכולם, מי שצריך להשתין.
You can give them 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
So let me ask you something. How we can spend the next 35 minutes? I think so. We have This one is a lot concepts. I like this one. I don't know if mechanical pruning is something that you would like to hear, kind of our approach or the light distribution patterns and how we justify this transitioning from 3D to 2D. I can show you, for example, this. Oh, wow. If I change the design, sorry, the view, it's gonna give you an idea of mechanical pruning and the approach. So the way how we call it the box concept that is there. So we have it developed, we developed the concept for more traditional planting systems and for more higher density like these ones. So we're producing 2 or 3 apples and doing the mechanical pruning there. And we had 3 or 4 or 5 apples and doing the mechanical pruning there in the summer. So we have mechanical pruning cat dormant and another one summer. This is make a lot of sense if you are planting already at these densities, or you want to see the transformation, how to move. Would you like to hear about this?
Yeah, of course. We are, I think, on the way to this kind of orchard. So yeah. This is the kind of orchards we are also want to be there. So this is, I think, very important for us.
So let me go forward, because kind of I want to justify the other one, that is the light distribution pattern. That is something that we're still questioning ourselves at this critical moment in the industry. And so I would like to share also that kind of concept. So the transitioning is the same. We're moving from 3D to 2D, and it's still somebody is not clear about 2D. We're gonna kind of take out that dimension, the more depth. The depth, we want to disappear. We want less depth. We want just a length and a height dimension in that kind of canopy. So when we start thinking about a bunch of machines, because here growers in the US, they build their own machines. They are monsters of building things, massive things. They don't like to buy things, small things. They want things that are gonna be able to run in big orchard, with snow, without snow, with whatever. So initially we began with the single sickle bar versus the double sickle bar approach to mechanical pruning. And I didn't know how to go in the recommendation. And I started to figure out that this double sickle bar was an approach, or a single sickle bar was going vertical. What is the best way for when we're looking for going vertical for maximum fit versus opening the tunnel? Okay. When I talk about maximum fit, is maximum fit of the orchard with the machine, not the opposite way. It's not the machine that had to fit the orchard. Okay, it's like the orchard. I'm gonna make the orchard make platform friendly to any idea, to anything that is gonna come. So how can I fit anything there that is gonna allow me maximum productivity and efficiency? So at the end, we start seeing that when we start using a sickle bar, a double sickle bar is more for opening the tunnel. It's when we have the very thick canopies, in this case of honeycrisp, and we really want to start doing this kind of pruning very early in the fall after the pruning of that honeycrisp in the summer, the first time. So we start doing, okay, we're gonna do something in the summer. We're gonna see how those trees, how that canopy show up during the winter month, and what we can do internally through manual pruning. When we had done it for a long time, even in spacings like this for a little longer, you still can see the conical shape. So it's still opening the tunnel, but it's still too conical, and still I have a lot of shade at the end. If I show you the same orchard, I have still a lot of shade inside, and I'm just producing fruit outside. It's not so efficient. So again, so I am opening the tunnel with a double single bar to produce, in this case, Empire, and I am mowing at the same time, but really give me, after the double single bar, a perfect environment to enter with platform like we are doing with this orchard. So before and after is opening the tunnel, is making everything more friendly for machine later at harvest. So it's very useful. What we are really talking, our approach, what I really believe, what I really feel very strong about it is that you have to think vertical and narrow for a 2D fruiting wall. So the only thing, the only machine that can give me that is a single bar for better mechanical fit. So I'm talking about the mechanical fit of any crazy machine, vision system, flower counts, estimation, anything that I want to have my apples there, no more than, in this case, 12 inches. We're making that cut 12 inches, 30 centimeter, I think so, from the trunk, in this case, for that planting. But if we have 3 feet in row spacing, we're really making that cut in the summer, 24 inches with a 1 single bar. So that is the machine that I got with 2 double single bar when I was trying to do aging trials. And at the end, I ended up using only 1, because now I was able to do what I thought I should be doing, because now I was able to do it with the precision that I can do it with 1 single bar. So this one is a shoot that I cut in the dormant season, and you're seeing the cut again in the summer. So you're gonna understand at the end of the presentation what I'm talking about, the dormant cut and the summer cut. But this is the summer timing for this kind of pruning. So in this case, when I have the 2 cuts, the dormant cut done at 12 inches, that is mechanical there. And after that, I let the 1-year shoots to develop, and we cut then again the 1-year shoot, just the 1-year shoot, a little offset, perhaps 1 or couple inches, a little off. And we ended up with the thickness in a 2x11 planting of more or less 16 to 18 inches for us to run the machine. And that is the mechanical fit that I have with those machines that we have been buying from Washington State. Okay, so those are machines that we're using for harvesting fruit in our orchard of honeycrisp, to be able to get this kind of fit. So think about how to be more efficient in the future with this 3-dimensional spindle apple orchard that perhaps you have there. Okay, so perhaps you have a 3-spindle orchard, perhaps you're gonna be able to clean, remove the wood, and perhaps you're gonna be able to transition that 3-dimensional orchard that is mature, perhaps to a more 2-dimensional orchard. So you can transition to a 2D via mechanical pruning, because we already know that these narrow canals are more suitable for orchard mechanization. And we're gonna do it through a winter or summer. And I wanna emphasize that that mechanical pruning that we are bringing doesn't mean that hand pruning is not needed or is less important. Okay, but because that was my approach, I thought initially when I started doing mechanical pruning that I thought, okay, I'm not gonna do manual pruning, perhaps not needed. But later you realize how good manual pruning can be if you continue implementing manual pruning with mechanical pruning. So you really improve, you can count better the bud, you can do better pruning, pruning extinction. You move the pruning goes to the next level when you are already clean and you are already setting the dimension of the canopy that you want. So think about what you have done in the past. Perhaps it's very similar, like you have left a lot of wood, you delay renewal pruning, and you have a dense canopy. You have a lack of systematic pruning, what we were kind of talking about, the issue with traditional spindle planting for the last 10 years, but we can transition them to a two-dimensional canopy. We don't have to start right away with a right tree from the get-go. So the grow habit of the cultivar, the limb bending required, but perhaps we haven't done it, the tall trees. And for this, for this example, it's a tree, it's a planting that I wanna start the transition today, perhaps this dormant season that is coming in Israel. You're gonna take a block, you're gonna say, okay, in 2 or 3 more years, I wanna start implementing mechanical pruning, and you wanna get ready. So in year 2021, as a result of no corrective pruning, a bunch of things that we have been talking, you say, okay, in 2 or 3 more years, by 2024, my company, I'm gonna start implementing mechanical pruning, and I'm gonna transition. This is the way how we have done the transition to mechanical pruning, okay? It's not the way, it's not the approach of this is a new planting, and because many growers are asking me in the US, hey, when can I start doing mechanical pruning? Say, hey, there's no need, still we can wait. Still perhaps not even needed to do mechanical pruning in a young planting that we have everything filet mignon, because everything is flowers, it's not big wood, it's nothing else, we can do it manually. Sometimes the manual pruning is as good as the mechanical pruning. The only thing that is mechanical pruning is a lot faster. So in this case, what I'm introducing here is a transition. It's a transition or conversion from a highly dense canopy to something that we're gonna do two-dimensional. So this dormant season, you really are gonna start removing the big wood. And as a minimum in 2021, you're gonna remove 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. You're not gonna be afraid of removing big limbs and start getting the renewals. In 2022, we're gonna come back to the same orchard that we decided to do this, and we're gonna do it again. And in 2023, we're gonna do that pruning for the last time, or perhaps we just had to do it for 2 seasons, depending on how much wood is in your orchard, something that we had to determine by visiting the orchard, seeing the density, seeing the flower density that we have in the interior, how much light we need inside. But perhaps in a 2-3 year period, we can transition to a mechanical approach. So in 2023, that dormant season is the last dormant pruning by hand, manually. And in 2024, let me see, I made a mistake here. I should write 2023 is the last dormant cut. That 2023, that dormant cut was done in 2023, but that summer cut is done the same season, the same summer. So right here, that this is 2023. Okay, I'm gonna change this right away because I don't wanna confuse you. So this is gonna be 2023. This is gonna be 2023. And this is gonna be, and we're gonna be in business in 2024. Okay, so in 2023, again, if you're following me, the 2023 is the dormant cut, the pruning, the traditional pruning that you are doing. In 2023, you have your final dormant cut, but that dormant cut, manual pruning to remove big limb, followed by a mechanical pruning at the end of the dormant season to preform the trees into a shape of box. Okay, so we're gonna finish the dormant cut manually, and on top of that, by the end of the winter, early spring, or even a pink, we're gonna run the machine to preform the trees into a shape of box. And after that, we're gonna do the summer cut. So the box is gonna be formed more or less 18 to 20 inches from the trunk. Okay, if we're planting a 3x12, that is the traditional. And if we're planting even more dense, a 2x11, we're gonna be setting that bar at 12 inches from the trunk. Okay, I'm gonna show you that with the drawings that I have. So from the preformed box that you did with the mechanical pruning, shoots are gonna grow during the spring and summer season of 2023. And they're gonna be edged or mechanically pruned again at 24, 26 inches from the trunk, late July, early August. 24 or 26 inches is for the plant, for the traditional planting at 3x12. You're gonna see all that. So
just a second, you need 2 summer cuttings in the third year, or only one? Yeah, this one.
So here, okay, so here is gonna be put in the dormant cut was the last manual dormant cut. We're gonna finish that winter season. Also, we're gonna really cut everything with the mechanical pruning. So it's gonna be a mechanical dormant cut. And from that mechanical cut, okay, shoots are gonna grow. Can you see shoots are gonna grow from that preformed box? Let me, from this preformed box that you had there, you're gonna have shoots that are gonna grow from there. So let me go a little ahead so you can understand. So you're gonna have that preformed shoot or canopy. Shoots are gonna grow. And in the summer, that's why I call it mechanical summer cut, you're gonna edge those again. Okay, so so you're gonna preform the box during the spring and summer, and they're gonna be edged again. So you edge 2 times that season in 2023. You're gonna be mechanically pruning dormant and a mechanical pruning in the summer. Okay. And in 2024, perhaps you don't have to do the dormant cut again. You have to do the summer cut every year, at least, when you have a very nice box. So when you have the box like that, the box concept is a system where edging is conducted at the end of the dormant season or at pink to preform the trees into a square shape of box. That's the concept. Okay, it's even more vertical than this drawing that I developed years ago. Okay, so I really like more to show that it's more a kind of vertical cut at the end of that dormant season. So it's an early spring cut with a late winter cut. Like I'm showing you the 2 situations. We're mostly doing a winter cut now when we are doing it in super high density plantings like this one. Okay, the early spring cut was something when we were kind of hesitant. We didn't know. We thought that we needed the tree to explore, to divert sun energy, because we were very afraid about the response of the tree that is gonna have to a mechanical cut during the winter season. So when we start doing it, we kind of start delaying until pink, the most that we could pink, even though it was very risky for us to do this kind of thing with fire-like condition and pressure that we have in New York, but we wanna wait. We just want the tree to release sun energy because we were afraid of the invigoration of the system. What we are doing today is more a late winter cut or pruning most of the winter once we know if we are safe, because we start pruning the old trees, the high density planting, we start mechanically pruning or pruning them manually late in the winter anyway. So we had dormant cut, okay, that was done 24 inches from the trunk. And what you can see there, those are the shoots that came there during the summer in the case of Gila. So we have 18 to 20 inches for a 3x12 planting from the trunk. That is the box. And from that box, we have those shoots that are gonna be cut again, the green shoots from the preformed box, the shoots in green color, those are gonna grow during the season until they are edged again in the summer. Okay, so you're gonna end up in the case of a 3x12 with a dormant cut at 18, 20 inches. You're gonna let it go. You're gonna offset your summer cut and you're gonna end up with your final canopy for harvest to run the machine at around 24 inches from the trunk. So you're gonna have summer cut, the dormant cut, and some flower buds inside. But in reality, we're not looking for a response of flower buds below the mechanical cut. Okay, we're not really looking for a crown brindle or more European approach to counting amount of leaves and really trying to coronate those shoots with fruit. If we get the flower buds, perfect. But in reality, we are trying to produce fruit in the interior in the first 20 to 24 inches where we want just the right light penetration. So there we got a flower bud. We got the dormant cut and the summer cut. So the way to see it, if you have a 3x12 planting, once you are set, once you have the right amount of thickness inside, you make your dormant cut at around 18 to 20 inches, and you let those shoots to grow, because in some cases, not all the time, but in some cases at the base of that 1 year shoot, that's why I have that apple there hanging. So sometimes you have an apple at the end, at the base of that 1 year shoot. So that's why you offset a little bit your cut in the summer, because you want to capture that apple. So in some cases, we have 3 apples inside. And if we're lucky, at the base of that 1 year shoot that we cut, we have 1 apple hanging there. Not all the time, I should say, but many, many times that happens depending on the behavior of the cultivar. So we offset, so we move the machine a little bit in the summer to be able to preserve that apple, to be able to have it inside. So we have the view, and for that system, for a 3x12 that is mechanically pruned, we're gonna be able to transition something like this with mechanical pruning. Okay, this is one of the first one that we transition, no high density planting, something that we couldn't even drive through the rows, but after many years of transition, we did it. And we had showed this orchard already 2 times in IFTA tours where we were able to implement this approach. So this is for a more kind of 4x13, 3x12 planting, and we ended up with something like this, more uniform, that allow us to really run machine and have the right color and everything. But in the case of something more dense, okay, that is perhaps where you want to go for a single spindle, and you want to keep it very narrow, very clean, very pristine, that dormant cut is gonna done at around 12 inches from the trunk. And we are not really expecting to have an apple at the base of that 1 year shoot. When you have super spindle planting or spindle planting, traditional spindle planting, whatever you wanna call it, you're gonna have at least 2 or 3 apples inside in the brown branch. You don't really need more apples in that tree. You don't really need, and in fact, that doesn't happen so many times like happen in other canopy systems. That should, if that tree is very well balanced, that should anyway is gonna be short. That should, all the energy in a more mature canopy is gonna go to the apples. You are not gonna end up with a lot of shoot growth during the summer that you're gonna end up cutting. So that cut in the summer is very close to the initial dormant cut that you did to set up the box. Okay, so if that is the case, I can now explain you the dormant cut that I show you there. Okay, and by doing that, when you start doing mechanical pruning, you really move your manual pruning to a different dimension. So when we started implementing mechanical pruning, we really can go inside. And the only way to cut this, for example, inside, those cuts that I have inside is manually, is by hand. All that detailed pruning that you are seeing there, all those pruning cuts are done by people and all the spur extinction or all the things that we don't want because we already are counting bad. We can really determine the bad density that we have for the bloom. We can really move forward. We are not really cutting wood. It's not a fire. We move the manual pruning to the next level. That is what I want to emphasize. It's not that we just do mechanical pruning and we run away. No, you do the mechanical pruning in the dormant season when you have the right canopy, but also you improve your manual pruning inside the canopy. You're not cutting branches, you're not looking for the right dimension, you are just counting, you're looking for spacing, you're looking for light penetration. So this is the dormant cut, and the dormant cut is gonna give a more uniformity canopy that later cut in the summer. When you get the cut, those shoots were cut there, that shoot was cut, that shoot was cut there. And it's gonna give at the most a thickness of 16 to 18 inches at the most. Okay, I tell you, this year that I took this picture, we moved a little further between row spacing with the summer cut just because we have more apples outside or closer to those shoots. And the return bloom that year wasn't good in Honey Creek, that is a biennial cultivar. So we had to sacrifice a little bit of thickness, and we ended up with that thicker canopy there that you can see. Okay, so that why more or less is 16 to 18 inches, but that thickness could be 14 to 16 in something that if we have more fruit inside, we go closer to the trunk, you know? It's just that we're looking for the apple. And another fit is just to show you the machine, the bin that is at the top. This is a bandit. This have become very, very successful. I don't have any relationship with the company, but I have to acknowledge the engineering and the innovation behind the machine to help people pick apples at the top like they're doing there with Honey Creek. So the takeaway is this one: you want to make a mature 3D spindle orchard more uniform, efficient, narrower, and fully suitable for orchard mechanization. When? Start today, start the dormant season. So the sooner the better. The conversion won't happen instantly. Don't go right away. Don't try to hammer the orchard right away with a machine. Wait. If you misunderstood the minimal pruning concept, perhaps you are full of wood. If you delay the renewal pruning, if you have done a poor pruning job, if you have created a dense bushy canopy. How you can get it done? Via detailed and precise manual and mechanical dormant and summer pruning, and the entire process of conversion can take until 3 or 4 years. It can be done in 2 years. If you are already there, perhaps you can implement these steps at the end of this dormant season. You can do your last state-of-the-art dormant cut, clean everything, and perhaps you can start implementing the pre-box, set the box at the end of the dormant season, and from there keep going with mechanical pruning. But perhaps you have to wait a little more. Perhaps it's gonna be 2 years where you have to be more precise and a little more aggressive if you haven't been. Hopefully I can encourage you to really go there and prune. Since I have 6 minutes, I don't know if I could show you something else. The possibility for you guys of grafting is something that makes sense for you in your industry?
Yeah, we can hear everything. Yeah, it's interesting.
Grafting is a possibility. Okay, so perhaps.
Just a quick question about the summer pruning.
Yeah.
Last presentation, you summer prune only once, or you summer prune twice? I couldn't get it.
Only once.
Only once in July. That's how you work.
Yeah. So okay, about the timing, the summer cut that we are doing to be honest, we cannot do it with the detail that a European fruit grower could do it by counting the leaves and looking for that kind of response with a crown brindle. And we're not interested about that approach. Our approach is big acreage, and we needed to get it done. So when I have a grower with 600, 1,000 or 800 acres that are our bigger growers, I'm not talking about Washington, we want to get it done sometime before harvest. So we start doing mechanical pruning first for the large fruited varieties first. Okay, and for us, a large fruited variety, a big fruited variety is going to be Honeycrisp. So Honeycrisp is the first one that we're going to start aging in the summer. That is the timing, okay? Early, kind of by late June, early July, we already mechanically prune most of the Honeycrisp. Those are 300, 320 grams fruit. But as we progress during the summer, kind of we start aging the cultivar that are middle size, and Empire perhaps could be there in the middle. Jonah Gold could be there in the middle, kind of. But for small fruited varieties, like Gela, or for us in New York one, that is Snapdragon, that is very important. But for Gela, perhaps a good example, a small fruited variety genetically, we don't want to touch it so early and remove shoots and produce any extra stress. We want to keep those shoots growing and working for the apples the longest that we can. So in some cases, we really start doing the mechanical pruning, the one single pass before harvest, even 7 to 10 days before harvest. Just because our timing and the way how they have been implemented in a practical way is trying to maximize fruit size. In the US, people like to eat big apples, nice apple. Growers made the most money with Gela, with a large Gela. And we really want to keep irrigation until the end, the shoots until the end, the right number of fruit. We ended up doing the mechanical pruning right after harvest so we can harvest those blocks.
Okay.
Okay. So let me see, how can I make this useful for you in a quick way? So there are mainly three approaches to grafting that we have taken. And these are grafting for orchard that you are not making money. These are no plant, could be an old planting. Perhaps the only one that we're using is a beaver graft. But if you have anything that is a little bit, or is a semi-high density planting that you can fill the canopy, perhaps with 2 stems, 2 leaders, perhaps you can top work, perhaps you can side graft, or perhaps you can beaver graft. Beaver graft is something that we're still learning a lot. So I'm not gonna recommend the beaver graft, but I'm gonna show you that part of things. So a Honeycrisp on M9, 4x13, kind of planted very far apart, but hey, why we don't put 2 sticks and we grow two Honeycrisp, and we try to do 2 stems from a top worked situation where we did it there at the top. The grower in reality want to have a 3rd stem, but I removed the 3rd stem when we selected the 2. This could be even more crowded. So we're doing mechanical pruning, we're doing 2 stems. So it's kind of a very hybrid system. Today in Italy, I cut back and I did short pruning from the base. The first time when I started doing this, I got to be honest, I made mistakes. I learned from my mistake with the grower, helping me to come out with these ideas. Later, I realized that I was losing space, production area, especially at the base, because at the end, I want to go with a taller canopy. We were able to go with a post and increase the height of these stems to go taller with the canopy. But at the end, it's a conical because it's an old planting. It's a 4x13. So I really have a more conical shape, it's thicker at the bottom. So I don't have to really start doing short pruning like you do for leader trees from the middle part of the tree. So I really make a mistake. You have to start leaving longer fruiting unit, like for a traditional planting spindle system. And as you go up from the middle up, it's more a short pruning. So this is the kind of thing that you had to try to produce instead to start something with very short at the base. This is the inverted triangle. It's very difficult to get rid of the inverted triangle because here the pruning is different than the pruning here and the line intersection and everything. But it's because you started very, very high in the grafting because you needed those nursing limbs to be able to do it. So that is the reason why you start kind of very high and you had to leave those long branches kind of to be pending to be able to have fruit there and make money. The other one is the side graft, and the side graft is something for a grower who already is very close to the right planting density, and you just want to switch. You are not making money with a cultivar. You want to switch to a club, to a new cultivar, and you have two approaches or even three approaches. One is to cut the tree and put the side graft and grow the shoots that season. The other one is to keep the crop one more year and get a minimal shoot growth. The other one could be also, as you grow one shoot, you can select another shoot from that side graft and interact with two stems from one side graft. And the other one that we are learning now is that we don't want to lose money the first year cutting the tree like we have been doing in the past with this situation with the side graft. We just remove the first lower part, the 5, 6 feet, 5 feet above the ground. We remove all the branches, we prune all of them, and we leave the fruit at the top to be able to make some money the first year we do the conversion. So we put the side graft because we remove the fruit, we remove the branches, we remove the leaf, we have more light penetration, we have a better shoot growth, and we also can go even with a two-stem tree coming from one side graft. So this is the case of a grower that did grafting. In Italy, it was Linda Mack on B9. Linda Mack, we are not making money in New York. This orchard was planted in 2011, was side grafted there with the side graft into New York 1, those kind of cultivars. The grower kept in 2016, when the grower did the grafting, we kept the crop, and I was so hesitant to keep the crop because I thought, my goodness, I'm not going to get any growth in the scion. But he kept the crop and he cut the top the following year, and he grew the shoot in 2017, the following year, and selected and trained 2 leaders in 2018 to be able to get this kind of thing. So this is a picture of 2 leaders selected in 2018. This is a picture that I took in 2019. This is the orchard today of Fuji B9 on M26 in 2020 by keeping, sorry about that. By keeping, so this is May, the blooming in Fuji. And with Fuji, make a lot of sense to leave 2 stems. I'm so happy that we left 2 stems instead of 1, because it's a more soft, it's a better texture. I'm so happy with this canopy because it was a very successful approach. Because it makes a lot of sense to grow a bigger cultivar in more than 1 single stem. In this case with Fuji, it's beautiful, it's very soft, everything pending, nice flower, nice crop, without irrigation under our condition. So we also had done this in New York 1. There is a very weak cultivar that we did it even on B9 with 2 stems that we were afraid, especially with B9. B9 is very popular for us for Firefly. It's a beautiful rootstock. I love Return Bloom, but it's a very weak cultivar. And if you use Honeycrisp on B9 or you use New York 1 on B9, you can kill the tree. So it's very difficult to grow a tree on B9. You don't know how to do it right. It's a very weak cultivar. It's a beautiful cultivar. It's a very nice rootstock, but you have to be careful with B9 when you are using a scion with very low vigor, or if you use a B9 in a very hot soil environment, in sun, in a very sandy spot, B9 is not gonna perform so well like B9 working in a New York soil with a better soil temperature. You put a B9, for example, in Maryland, in Virginia, with honeycrisp, you're not gonna be able to fill the space. Okay, like we had trials there with B9 or G11 or G41. We go with a B9 with honeycrisp, a weak cultivar, we cannot fill the space. The growers are disappointed. Those are kind of mistakes that we didn't know that was sensitive to the kind of high soil temperatures. But still, very lucky. I want to say that we were very lucky, and I want to recognize we haven't been able to grow this tree so high. I couldn't go there to take a video for you in preparation for this, because I had a video from Bloom for Fuji. The trees grew, they're taller, but it's with B9 anyway. Okay, it's what we did anyway is very good. So that work, still we have a huge amount of space there between the rows. This could be a little closer for a two-stem situation. The other one is this approach about side grafting to one single stem and keeping the top part of the tree with fruit the year of grafting. Okay, so I know cutting the tree, we are grafting, we are keeping the fruit on the top, we're gonna grow the shoots, we took out everything about, can you see that? I just wanna make sure that you clean, because you're looking for light. So you clean that 3, 4, 5 feet, some growers are doing until around 5 feet from the ground, but you just do it because you want that shoot to get the light for growth. Okay, and on top you have the fruit that is gonna pay for the side graft. So there you have the side graft coming, you have the top with fruit in the middle of the season. And there we have the grower with the apple production, in this case with Empire. Empire is not making money, but still he got 800-900 bushel. We grow the shoots and he's supporting those trees. And that day I'm measuring shoot growth in that tree and taking data. Very amazing to see this kind of thing. So we had this approach in New York site, it's Empire on B9. We had this very successful conversion through keeping the top. We have another case in Michigan. We saw this, we visited this approach in the ISTA tour in 2019 in Michigan, a grower who used G11. He took out, I don't know what cultivar, I think it was a Macintosh strain, and he's using Pink Lady on top there, but he kept the crop. And that was the kind of growth that they show us that year in the winter after the grafting season. No trunk or half trunk for growers who are doing side grafting and cutting the tree, the tops, without keeping the fruit on top. This is the traditional approach, but growers are always asking me, Mario, should I remove the trunk right away? Should I keep half of the trunk? Should I leave full of the trunk? How I manage the nursing limbs as the tree grows during the growing season? We are still learning, but definitely it's a management of the nursing limb. When I measure leader growth the following season, when I cut the trunk completely and I didn't left nursing leaf, the scion, the new scion, in this case, in this trial, grew more than the other ones. Okay, but I'm still hesitant. I like to manage the scion wood, the nursing foliage, and I want to prune systematically during the season, the year of grafting. So I can really pump energy to the top and I can grow the scion wood. And I also use the approach of whole fertilization. So I also take care of that plant, that grafted plant with the nursing foliage, and we fertilize and we take care of diseases and we take care of that little scion or graft very carefully, like in a nursery, to get the growth. So this is the traditional approach. You have the stick, you cut the top. This is the most traditional way how to do the side grafting, taking out the top, leaving the nursing foliage, the lower 2 or 3 branches, and you're gonna have the second picture. You don't think that it's an entire tree. Those trees were headed, so it's only the nursing foliage that we start the growing season, and we start managing the nursing foliage as we go during the growing season for that shoot. So we had the west side for us, that is the regrowth that we get from the pruning that we have been doing during the growing season in the nursing foliage, but you can see already there the scion coming from the shoots and being trained with plastic twine and using the same wire and everything. So we are really taking care of that scion wood, maximizing that. By October, we have very little nursing foliage. We have been pruning and pruning. The green, the light foliage, they are just the regrowth of previous pruning that we have been doing in the nursing foliage, and taking out all the fruitlet that set fruit there in those flowers. You don't let those fruit stay there and suck more energy. So you ended up with the west side, the east side, at the end of that year of grafting. Something very important for there, you can see the sticks. Something that we didn't know is that we had to cut with a knife the graft there. I don't know if you can see the cut to the ceiling tape that we put there. We don't want there, this is the next spring, we want something clean. So we had in November, early December, we're already cutting with a knife from the bottom to the top. We are running and cutting all those tapes just to make sure that nothing is gonna, any disease, nothing is gonna be there. Everything is with the plastic twine, the tree is there, and those trunks are gonna be cut the following year. It's gonna be a dormant cut or early spring cut like there. So you have the cut, you have the 1 year shoot that you got there, and you're gonna manage that 1 year shoot like you manage in the nursery. So you're gonna do everything short pruning. You can double stem if you wanna choose that at the moment. Whatever shoot that is coming from below, you can decide. This spacing is 2.5, so it's very close. These are very tight spacing. But if you wanna do it also, if you have highly vigorous cultivar and that scion wood is a Fuji, you can do a 2 stem. You can choose one of those shoot, lower shoot, wherever is coming nice, and you can do a double leader coming from a one single side graft. So you can fill the space and do it very nice, especially for a highly vigorous cultivar, or if you have highly vigorous or a good rootstock underneath. You have a good engine there. You can pump and do 2 stems. In this case, this is B9. All this is B9. It's more difficult to push a weak cultivar. If we're putting a New York one, a honey piece on top, it's gonna be more difficult to push with a B9 root there. So during the summer, we cut everything. We had the summer cut, the manual summer cut, and here is just a comparison that I wanna show you. It's just the manual summer cut of those one single shoot that I had to the left versus the traditional mechanical summer cut. That is the same thing. It's just 1 year shoot that I cut, but it's a just short cut that I'm doing in those high density planting. We are growing the new cultivar to the left. That one is gonna become something like you have in the right. Those are traditional trees grow from the nursery. But I just wanna emphasize that that is the summer cut in the left side versus the mechanical cut. And I am doing exactly the same that I am doing in the growth through technology in the nursery, but I am doing it in the scion wood in the orchard through a grafting approach. So the only reason is that we start doing that is because we want those flowers to be, those buds to be floral. And we do that time around the time that we're doing the mechanical pruning. So we could spend a ton of time just managing those leaders and the training and the way how we do it to grow the tree. But once you do the side grafting, you can still see the tape of the color, and we get the canopy the right way we want, the right fruit that we want, and it's ready to keep going with the fruit. The beaver graft is something that we have been learning the hard way. This is for very old plantings that we have in our region. How we can really move those orchards to high density, how we can, for growers who are willing to put new posts, go higher in tree height, invest in wires. This is a situation that those are the traditional posts. Everything what is hanging there, those little pieces of wood, those are the trunks that were completely embedded in the wire, so we couldn't take out those ones. But we are willing, the grower is willing to make the cut, put the sticks, and grow the tree a very tall canopy, because we cannot do anything with the between row. We just had to make it very tall to have the yields that we need to justify the project. So we are doing the beaver graft. We're not killing the tree completely, it's halfway. We're putting 2 or 3 sticks to grow the 3 leaders in that case, using plastic twine. This is the beaver graft year 1. That is the halfway by the growing season. In the second year, where we were able to have good tree stems coming from the base, but we have a lot of issues. We have a lot of mortality. We didn't know what we were doing. This is a good tree that I can show you, but we didn't know what we were doing the first year by using this approach. We had tree mortality that I can show you behind. Some of them didn't work out. The start bleeding, the big tree start bleeding, and nothing was there in the other half the first year. So many grafts didn't take, or they collapsed completely because we couldn't suck it up, all the energy coming from the big root system that is there. That is an old M9 planting. It's an M9, one of the first ones, but we were not able to have 100% take just because we didn't know what we were doing with the other half of the tree. We were too aggressive by cutting the trunk right away the first dormant season after the grafting. So you grew those shoots, you had those shoots, you had the trunk, but we were too aggressive the following year, and we cut those trunk. And when we cut those trunk, that the second year start bleeding, and we couldn't contain those trees, and at the end the trees collapsed. So we were able to do the 3 stems in some cases and get some rows, something like this in the most successful sections with 2 or 3 stems. So what we are bringing in the protocol is for the beaver graft that you started in year 1 is a second year for year 2 to be able to be successful. So one approach could be to cut the trunk in the dormant season, the other half, but in the other half, we go anyway, and in the second year, we graft again the second half of the trunk, just to be able to contain the sap that is gonna be coming from that old root system. So we have the old, or the graft that we put in year 1. We have the graft here in the other half row that we are grafting again in year 2 to contain the sap. That is May of 2019 of this approach after done the grafting. And this is the August picture where I can show you the graft taking the energy with leaves and growth, but not competing with the main stems that we want to leave. So we did some pruning here. I continue growing my 3 stems, but by putting those 2 or 3 sticks in the other half, I'm able to preserve the sap and the integrity of the plant and be able to be successful with the grafting approach. So there is August of that year, of the second year of the beaver graft, where I have the second half grafted again in year 2. I had the tops. I don't have fruit, it's just vegetative growth. It's a lot of push, in no nitrogen, in no irrigation. We are just trying to minimize nitrogen to be able to have good fruit quality the following year when we're gonna crop these trees. We did a mechanical pruning to be able to cut all the shoot in August, in late August, early September, just to preform and enter very clean for the dormant season, for the dormant pruning. So here is how they look after in February 2020, after grafting in the second half of those trees. And this is just for you to see what we were able to achieve with this grower.
Mario, what are the distance between the rows in this all the?
Oh my God, these are, I think so 15 or 16 feet apart. These are very far apart. So that's why we had to go very tall. That's why the grower, we know that we have to use all the posts. We're gonna go very, very high. Let me put it quiet. So we know that we have to go high, okay? Because no way that it's gonna be thicker. It's gonna be a hybrid, thicker at the bottom and more narrow at the top. But these are very thick between row spacing, because these are all orchards where we're doing
15 feet around.
Yeah, these are big. I don't recommend to do this at all, okay? Because you had to bring the second year, at least for our conditions. At least for our conditions, we couldn't do it without a second year of grafting in the second half to be able to contain the integrity of the top and bottom of what we are trying to do with the plant. Okay, be careful with this. This is playing with fire, but this is what the first one successful that we were able to accomplish. So we have all these approaches for top working or side grafting or beaver grafting is done correctly, and the way how you could manage the leaders and the spacing for those leaders and the rootstocks. We're not recommending this for honeycrisp or for any bitter pea susceptible cultivar, because we never have been able to manage the 9 nutrient ratios to be able to decrease bitter pea incidence in storage, especially in honeycrisp. So it's very challenging, and the packing houses and the growers have been losing a lot of money just because they want to graft and bring a lot of honeycrisp to underperforming orchard that they have the right planting density, but they're not making the money, and have been a mistake. So we're not really recommending the grafting to honeycrisp. Just for those reasons. That's the only reason why I don't have that recommendation there. So, well, I think so. I don't know. Happy to I don't know if you have a question or something.
שאלות יש למישהו?
Sorry.
I asked them if they have any questions in Hebrew.
Oh yeah, sorry.
יש שאלות? No, I think no questions.
So hopefully it was useful. I'm happy, like we can develop any topic in any direction that you want in the future. It's just to give you, I have more information, but in 2 hours, you know, it's difficult to fly by, but I'm more than happy to continue I like you guys a lot. It was a nice experience. So you're moving in the right direction. You're being very smart in your approach. So if I can be part of that in some capacity, I feel happy to share the Zoom file, edit the Zoom file, or any information, or if you guys decide to come here later when COVID finally is under control or something, happy to have you here.
Great.
And with parents also, you know, like we enjoy that part also, like hosting international visitors. We love it.
Mario, thank you very much. It was
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
very, very interesting. And we'll be
Yeah.
in touch. Of course, I'll be in touch with you. Okay.
Yeah, anything, guys, okay?
Great. Thanks, Mario.
Like you can see, COVID, I told Omer, I think so, this idea, I told him, look, with COVID, we can do, after COVID, we can do so many things through virtual Zoom. It's not the same thing, but we can exchange a lot of information and help each other.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Mario. And
Gracias.
I tell them in Hebrew, תודה לכולם ששרדתם והשתתפתם, וניפגש יום שלישי הבא. עוד
הבא וחג שמח.
חג שמח. It's
טוב מאוד.
a holiday today in Israel, so you're going
Okay.
to light candles and to eat some
Enjoy, guys.
donuts. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
תודה רבה.
Bye-bye.
ביי.
God bless you. See ya.
ביי. תודה.